All right, chat. All right, y'all who's coming in here supporting, I appreciate it. Episode 7 coming to you today. I got my boy Jordan Gideon coming on. You know, we're not giving out any financial advice or anything like that, but Jordan knows a lot about stocks, crypto, and we've been talking on the phone, texting, and I'd be bugging. I'm like, man, just come on. How would you just get on the pod and we just talk about it there? So y'all can hear, I can hear. He knows what he's talking about. But again, we're not giving out like any financial advice or anything like that of that sort. What up, Lance? Thanks for coming in. I am ugly. You know, I'm 27 now, man. You know, you put a little weight on when you're 27. Nah, all love though. But yeah, man, we're gonna get in here. We're gonna dig into it. But I think we're still waiting on Jordan, which is fine. He's a busy man. He be selling car parts. So he be working with the dope. First off, he be working with the dopest cars. He'll be like posting stuff on his stories. If any of y'all follow him, and I recommend you do follow him. He does a lot of different things from, you know, pretty sure he works at like I will get into that when he gets in here. But anyways, yeah, we're gonna get into it. Wait for him. But before we get started, there's some things I kind of wanted to dig into before I bring Jordan in here, and he's ready to roll. First off, I wanted to talk the men's and women's NCAA basketball tournaments that ended. Is that this week? Yeah, this Sunday. Women played Sunday, men's played on Monday. And I'll tell you what, man. What up, Eric? I am on Twitch, but I be doing my live streams on Facebook now. I'm gonna kind of bounce between the two, and eventually, hopefully, I'll be able to stream on both platforms. But yeah, that's down the road. Hopefully soon though. You gotta be spending money, man. You know, you gotta be spending money for that stuff. And this is free for now, but you know, if this goes anywhere and I make something off of it, shit, I'm gonna be streaming it on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook all at the same time. But anyway, yeah, about those tournaments, man. First off, March Madness. It's just such a beautiful time of the year. It's such a joyous time of the year, especially for me, because you know, NBA season, full swing. Baseball's coming, and then we get hit with March Madness. We start in the conference tournaments. That's when it starts, like the conference tournaments. It just gets crazy. Like North Carolina State, man. Who would have thought they would have made that run? Well, I did. I had them going to the Final Four, but that's just me. Just such a beautiful time of the year, and something that's also slept on is the NCAA men's wrestling tournament, man. All my wrestlers be going crazy over that too. Such a great time of year, because once you get in the conference tournaments, NAI, NCAA, you know, D1, D2, JUCOs, all that kind of stuff, man, it's so fun. But like on the women's side, I watched more of the women's than I did the men's, and I'm not trying to be corny and saying what everyone else is saying, but it's really the truth. Well, I'd say they're about even. Now that I think about it, I'd say they're about even, but it was so fun. You know, all the attention the women are getting, and just like the men's March Madness always is gonna get the attention. That's like already established, and women's has been established too. If you like actually watch basketball, I mean, if you truly like basketball, I think you're gonna watch. You've been watching the women's tournaments. You know what I mean? I remember watching Maya Moore, then like Brianna Stewart came through, Elena Delle Donne when I was a young kid, Candace Parker at Tennessee. Man, I've been watching, but anyways, it was so fun. Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers, South Carolina as a whole. Then you had Juju Watson. You had all these girls, bro, just putting on. Stanford, dogs. Lance asking, what's your view on the slight hate Caitlin's been getting from Deanna and Sue? Ah, man, it's tough. You know, I don't know. This is my opinion, and this is just solely my opinion, right? I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, but this is what I think about it, all right? So, Caitlin Clark is like the Steph Curry to women's basketball. We haven't seen anyone, we probably have, I just can't think off the top of my head, pull from as deep as she does and just shoot at such a high clip. And like her game, Caitlin Clark's game as a whole is, it's like radioactive, in the lack of a better term. Like, she's so fun to watch. She'd be diming the ball, she got the handles, and she'd be pulling that thing and dropping 40 points like it's nothing. And I think like Diana and Sue, you know, legends of the game, 100% legends of the game. So there's like, I see it from kind of two different angles on like the hate Caitlin Clark. And I don't even know if it's hate. I think they're just kind of saying, hey, it ain't no cakewalk up here. Just be ready. Because first off, like, women's basketball, in terms of like viewers this year, has just skyrocketed. I think they had like 15.7 or something like that. Oh, is Gideon up in here? I don't think so. I think they had like 15.7 or something million people watch. Was it the national championship, or was it Paige Beckers versus Caitlin Clark? Anyways, just skyrocketed. And I don't think those numbers were there when those two studs were going through. You know what I mean? And pretty sure Diana Taurasi, was she UConn? They might be UConn girls. I can't remember off the top of my head. Because when I started watching like women's ball, Diana Taurasi was already in the league. They didn't get that kind of attention, and I think the point Diana's trying to make is like, don't let like first off, one point Diana made was like, everybody has fascinations with like the younger female athlete, and then it just seems like they drop off the face of the earth, or the attention they get drops off the face of the earth once they go pro. You know what I mean? And she's like, I hope y'all keep that same energy and bring that to the WNBA. But at the same time, Paige is getting all this hype, ESPN, large media, like just huge following. And they're saying, okay, keep that same energy, but just let her know, like, it isn't a cakewalk up here. You know, you're facing grown women that have been playing for a long time. And so I think she's keeping it real on one point, but also, like, there could be a part of that where she's like, you know, just kind of holding her ground and being like, look, keep that same energy, come watch us, give her all the attention, but like, we've been hooping. You know, she ain't the first great female basketball player to play. And so, I don't know, man. I see a lot of hate, and I think Caitlin Clark handled a lot of that very well, man. You know, putting that spotlight, kind of have those responsibilities of, you know, saying the right things, being a good leader and a role model. I think she handled it very well. But do I think she's the best player in college basketball? I don't know, man. I think Paige Becker's pretty good. Juju Watson's pretty good. You know, there's a lot of good girls. I just think Caitlin Clark might have been the most, he had the most marketable game, in my opinion. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. She's shattering these records, scoring, doing all that stuff. And rightfully so. But I don't think she's like the clear cut, in my opinion. I don't think she's the clear cut best player in the nation. But I don't know. I only watched her on the TV. You know, and I think if I got to watch her in person, I don't know. I think there's just a lot of good girls. But yeah, anyways, it was so fun to watch. Just watching the women's play, it was so fun to watch. A lot of close games, like a lot of anticipation for games. You know what I mean? Especially for those Caitlin Clark games. And she showed up. She showed up for the most part against UConn. Tough battle, but she still showed up when she needed to, right? The national championship, shit, man, did she have 20 at half? Like, they couldn't guard her. No one can guard her for the most part. What's her name from South Carolina, that guard? She stepped up. She definitely stepped up. Because Caitlin got hot quick. And I think in that second half, she stepped up. What do I value more in the GOAT status? Just in general? I think rings do play a huge factor in how you get those rings, for sure. I think that, in anything, I think that plays a huge factor. Impact, I mean, if you're getting the rings and you're best player on the team, I think that impact's there. But I think accolades, or is it accolades, or maybe just stats? Look, and I'm not saying this is Caitlyn or anything like that. I'm just talking in general. There's a lot of people we like to call GOATs in any sport because they have the stats. You know, in basketball, they might have the points. Baseball, they might have the home runs. Football, they might have the touchdowns. But they ain't winning like that. You know what I mean? They ain't winning like that. They're not getting the rings. They have the stats. And so for me, it's hard because I do think those rings and accolades, you know, carry a lot of weight, especially if you're the best player on those teams that won. But when you take in consideration like other teams and like other factors and like who's on your team and things, that can suppress you from getting, you know, those rings. But at the same time, I think if you're the best player and you belong in that GOAT status, you know, you got to uplift those teams like LeBron. And I'm not saying LeBron's the GOAT, but he's definitely in that conversation. I think it's a conversation. He uplifted those Cavs teams, man. You know, he had help for sure, but look what he did with the Lakers. You know, he didn't have the best. Well, I guess he's had actually really good teams around him. But what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to think specifically with the Cavs, where he didn't have the best team and he's going against one of the greatest dynasties ever, you know, and he definitely put on, and he got one ring out of it, but with help with Kyrie and things like that. LeBron is a bum. Nah, LeBron ain't a bum, bro. Nah. Is he the GOAT? No, I'd take Kobe over Bron, but that's just my opinion. People get mad when you share your opinion. That's the problem. But back to the women's, man, it was so fun. It was actually really fun. I knew South Carolina. Like, I think if you watch the women's, like, you knew South Carolina was going to win it no matter who won out of UConn and Iowa. But then you flipped it to the boys, and, like, all year the boys, man, like, that Caitlin Clark took over, like, the media and all the attention, and the boys got attention for sure. But, like, they didn't have someone with the star power as Caitlin Clark. So I think that made the boys, like, a little more fun to watch, in my opinion. You didn't have any, like, 1 or 2 lost teams. Everyone lost maybe 3-4 times. It was fun. UConn's a really good team, man. I didn't expect, honestly, I didn't expect Purdue to make that run. I thought they were just like upset galore. I thought like, oh, this is the team to get upset. But, you know, Edey kind of proved me wrong. I always kind of saying he's a little overrated. But he did his thing. He was like 11 for 22. Things like that, just the guards, you know. I didn't even watch the full game, to be honest. I watched the full women's game. I didn't watch the full boys game, but I love UConn. I love that culture that UConn coach has. Dan Hurley, if I'm not mistaken. What up, Unc? Uncle Cal's in here, man. Lakers, nah, Suns, but I respect it. But yeah, like Jordan brought up Paige Beckers. She's tough. I think she's the best player in college basketball. Her or Juju Watkins. I think Paige does more. In my opinion, I think Paige does more, like on the basketball court, on the defensive side and the offensive side. You know, all around, I think Paige is the better basketball player. Caitlin's definitely the best scorer for sure. But you know what I mean? That's just my opinion, though. That's just my opinion. Paige's game's tough. It's really tough. But just watching those, dude, it was so fun. It was really fun. It's just such a good time of year. Now we have baseball rolling. The Yankees are hot. We got Soto, man. We got Juan Soto. It's so cool. But we got Gideon over in the other channel, so I'm gonna kind of break down UFC 300 real quick. I don't know if any of y'all watch this UFC stuff, but this card's absolutely stacked. You know what? How about we just get Jordan up in here? Let's just get Jordan up in here real quick, and then I'll break down UFC 300 if we have some time. Let's get him up in here, man. Everyone, Caitlin was playing with Starbucks baristas, though. Hey, before I get Jordan in here, yeah, we could talk about that. I was kind of saying that, like Lance earlier. I kind of just went off topic. I was gonna kind of bring that back. Iowa overall as a basketball team was not as good as South Carolina. And, you know, that did get exposed. I'm not saying those girls in Iowa are bad basketball players. They're Division I basketball players, rightfully so. But, like, you just knew that South Carolina, it wasn't going to lose. You know, and Caitlin It's when you have a team where everyone else can guard, you can put your best defender on a who can lock Caitlin Clark up for the most part. You're gonna win that game because nobody else really did anything. They didn't have the posts. They're getting killed on the O boards. They're getting killed on the boards in general. Yeah, if Caitlin had that, you know, it would probably be a different story. But at the same time, is Caitlin's game made to have, you know, to have her off ball all the time? I know she does play off ball, but a lot of her scoring and a lot of the playmaking for Iowa went through her. She had to have the ball at all times, and when she didn't, it was tough for those other girls, except for Katie Martin. She's a hooper. Katie Martin's going stupid. It's just, you know, who knows? A lot of different dynamics. Let's see if we can get Jordan up in here real fast. Let's get it. Jordan Gideon, everybody. We up in here. I was just talking a little ball with the chat. We got Lance, saw Eric up in here. Zach's up in here. Got my uncle and Jordan LaFontaine up in here, man. So, yeah, I appreciate you coming on first and foremost. I mean, we'd be talking.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Bro, we be talking stock. You be slipping me some stuff. I'm like, how does this guy do it? How's this guy do it? And I think we've been trying to get. I've been talking to you about getting you on here for like, I feel like 2 years when I first kind of started the pod. But yeah, before you got on, I was trying to remember, what car dealership do you specifically work for? Is it Audi? But I see like Ferraris and stuff in there.
So we do Audi and Lamborghini.
Audi and Lamborghini. We ain't Ferrari over here, dog. We're Lamborghini over here.
You'll definitely see Ferraris on my story still, like if we take them in on trade or whatever. But yeah, mainly two brands, Audi, Lambo.
Perfect. Yep. So I was just kind of like boosting you a little bit. I was like, yeah, he be working with these cars. He's like a photographer, and he's a.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, dude, I haven't used my camera much lately, but
you be getting working though.
I'm trying to get back into it. I've been trying, but I don't know, man.
Hey, you could be a photographer and not do it full time. But
yeah, fair enough. I like to say it's more of a hobby, but yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. But yeah, again, I appreciate you coming on, man. And why don't we just kind of get into it here? So we were kind of talking, I think, the other week, and my brother Robert was kind of talking to me about it too, of like, what do they call it? A bull run or a bull rush?
Bull run, bull cycle, bull market.
So what is that specifically? I never really kind of understood that concept of like what that symbolized.
Well, so yeah, like bullish just means, you know, lots of buying pressure. You know, stocks, cryptos, they're going up. Bearish would be, you know, lots of selling, lots of you know, just withdrawing funds from whatever asset you're in, and it, you know, causes a downslope or a downtrend. So yeah, I mean, currently Bitcoin especially, but yeah, lots of cryptos starting that 2024 bull cycle. Bitcoin halving is coming up next week. It's either going to take place the 19th or the 20th. So that's kind of what the cause of this bull run is for the cycle, anyways.
So how long you been doing this? I know you've been doing a little penny stocks, but when did you start kind of digging in to everything?
I would say I first started playing in like the penny stock area probably beginning of 2021 or like mid 2021. It was honestly back when things were still like semi shut down, semi open, like people weren't working, but they were getting all this unemployment money, you know. So it's like when I first started playing with these penny stocks, dude, you could see a company put out like a tweet, right? And you know, the next thing you know, the stock's running 70% in a day. Like it was just kind of crazy times, you know. So yeah, like that's kind of when I first started getting into it. And actually, man, like one of the dudes that kind of helped me get my start with it, I work with him over at the dealership. His name's Ben. But yeah, dude, I just kind of started showing interest to him and asking him questions, and he saw that I was, you know, genuinely curious and genuinely wanted to learn. So he helped me, like he kind of mentored me a little bit, like he gave me a bunch of books to read. One of them actually, like one of my favorite ones, I forget what it's called. I'd say it's my favorite, but then forget what it's called. But I think you've read it before too, Richest Man in Babylon.
Yes, dude.
Probably like out of the book, like the reading list he gave me, I would say that's probably one of the best ones that I can recommend. Just to like even give you I don't know, like a platform or an idea of how you should kind of arrange your finances in regards to saving and investing and whatnot. So yeah, man, 2021 kind of started from there, and then just been doing it since, trial and error, dude. Like I'm definitely nowhere near like a financial advisor or anything like that, expert. Like I've definitely had my fair share of losses,
Yeah,
dude. But
yeah.
yeah, man, it's just learning process. You kind of once you kind of start digging into it and get like
Hmm.
a general grasp, you're able to put the pieces together and then try and make good investments, good trades and whatnot.
Heck yeah, man. And Lance, I'm gonna get to your question kind of at the end of this discussion for sure. For sure. If you got another one, fly it in there. But I let Jordan, I let everyone know. I was like, hey, we're not giving any financial advice and none of that. You know,
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Biggest thing. Like
we ain't doing
I'm
that.
totally down to talk about it, but I'm definitely
Yep.
not like an expert myself or
Yep.
anything like that. Like I'm not trying to, you know, I don't want to like lose anybody money, nothing like
Right.
that. I'm definitely
Um,
not giving out picks or anything, but
but to that book, The Richest Man in Babylon,
mhm,
um, a lot of people I know have actually read it. Who
mhm,
they either dabble or they don't dabble in stocks. Like it's more like a financial, like, hey, this is how you keep your bread right.
yeah,
If you follow these principles.
yeah,
Um, and like you also mentioned like education on like you just kind of dig in and you take the time to really understand what's going on, what's smart, what's not, what's maybe
mhm.
worth taking a risk. Would you say like this is something that you have to have like a true passion for, and like if you're gonna get into like this area where you can make money like this, um would you say like it's probably, if you're have one foot in the door and the other one out, that's probably not a good time to do it. You gotta be all in.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need to be willing to learn, and it's not like you're gonna spend a day or two like reading some stuff, and then you're gonna start to, you might be able to start to grasp some things, but um, you got to be willing to learn and understand that you're not going to be right every single time. Like there are going to be plays that you're going to lose money on for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, the biggest thing is trust yourself, be willing to take chances and whatnot. Like, cause even for me, dude, like I've nuked my trading account probably 3 times. Where like you build it up and then you make a couple bad decisions or one bad decision and it just
Yep.
like I remember like I'll never forget the day, dude, July 8th, 2022. I got rug pulled on a stock, and I remember I read the press release. So here in Vegas, market hours open at 6:30 a.m. So I
Mm.
remember I woke up, I read the press release before market open, and it was a bad press release, and I was like, oof. I remember I got in the shower, like started getting ready for work, and I came out and I checked my phone, and market had been open for maybe like 10 or 20 minutes, and I was down like 20 grand. And
Damn.
so like there's definitely going to be moments where like it tests you and it gut punches you absolutely, like
Mm-hmm.
um but again, like I've probably done that 3 times where I've nuked my account and then kind of had to like gather myself and like, all
Yep.
right, like you've built it up before, you can do it again. And so the biggest thing is just be willing to learn, willing to take the risks, and then understanding that you very well could lose some money here. But at the end of the day, if you're still willing to learn and continue like perfecting it, you can you can do good at it and you can make some money.
Yeah, and that's always been my hesitation is like I've always wanted to jump in there, but I'm like, fuck man, I'm not doing, the research I need to do because I put that energy in like the different spaces. Um and so I've always kind of been hesitant. I've dabbled a little bit. Um, but I was like, if I really want to, put my bread towards this, I need to kind of buckle down a little bit more. That's
Yeah,
why I asked
man.
the question because I feel like that's so important.
Yeah, definitely do. Especially like that's why I say the richest man in Babylon, because it may not be like super investment based, but it will kind of help you prepare yourself and prepare your finances to, then allocate more money to like start investing and have
Hmm.
those extra funds to actually try and build wealth and whatnot. Um, but yeah, so
And
lately I've been doing sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, and I would recommend that book to anybody, just like
Anybody,
any, and
yeah.
it's such an easy read.
Yeah.
Like
I
it,
would say like it's super small book. You can probably read it in a night.
yeah,
It's like I don't know how like the writing style, like almost like Shakespearean kind of like just like
yeah,
the way that they talk in the book. So it's kind of goofy in that sense, just because I think it's like back in the Babylonian times, you know what I
yeah. That
mean?
dude
So
was like he was living way
it's
back
an
there.
old book. Yeah, exactly. So But again, you can read it in like a night, and the message is still very clear.
And he like, if I remember, I forget his name, but like he basically started from the bottom. You know what I mean? He
Yeah,
started
man.
from the bottom, and he like followed the principles of like, what was it, like 80% of the money you make, you save 10% for fun, and the other 10 for like
For like
bills or something
investing
like
or
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
bill, something like that. I
yeah.
don't remember. It's been a couple years since I've read the book, but yeah, man, he started from the bottom and just kind of started networking, and then taking the advice that he got, and like I said, allocating funds, and built wealth, and made himself a very wealthy person. And yeah, man, like you said, I'd recommend that book to anybody.
Yeah.
But so yeah, lately I've kind of been more focusing on cryptos, mainly like I definitely want to make note that anyone looking to get into trading penny stocks, if
Hmm.
you've seen The Wolf of Wall Street, do you know that scene when he first started
Yeah.
that penny stock broker, and he's
Yeah.
like Aerotyne engineering, like cutting edge technology, like, and it's
It's in a
some back
shed.
alley freaking garage office.
Yeah.
Um, I would say 95% of companies on the OTC market are very similar to that. Like most of these companies are scams.
Hmm.
Um, it's funny, the OTC itself, it is a regulated platform. It's regulated by the SEC, but some of the things that these CEOs and these company officers are able to get away with is borderline criminal, like for sure. So, with that
How,
being
what
said,
do they do?
don't
What do they do?
really, man. It's just I would say like pumping up the stock, like putting out false information, or like, withholding certain
Uh,
details, stuff like that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
where they know, or and like they have lawyers involved too, where they're able to kind of like tread in certain areas, and
yeah.
like they have their forward-looking statements, and like they're just able to like
Influencer
word in
stuff
a
a little
sense where
bit.
they can't be held like legally accountable, but like it's
Hmm.
clear to say that there was either insider trading, or that they like dumped shares, or like rug pulled, or was sold liquidated their shares before the rug pull, stuff like that, like where
Mm.
it's kind of like the wild west of stocks, to be honest with you, man. But again, there is money to be made, but don't go into penny stocks, like finding a stock that you can buy, at a penny or less, where you're getting 50,000 shares, a million shares. And it's easy to like see these big numbers and think, wow, like this stock just needs to go to 25 cents, and I get $250,000. And I would say 99% of the time that stock's barely going to hit a penny. With that being said, like again, you can still make money. You just, I would say, need to do more like technical analysis when playing in those stocks, as far as really the OTC market is like a little money cloud that just kind of like floats around.
Yeah.
And if you go on Twitter, like you can follow the trends, you can see what people are talking about, what people are hyping up, like see what people are buying. And then there's actually a guy on Twitter, he goes by Kiko Stocks.
Hmm.
He has like it's like a monthly subscription, but I used to pay for it, and he teaches a lot about like chart analysis, and like what indicators to use to kind of plan better, like buy and entry points, stuff like that.
Hmm.
And in my opinion, that's the best way to trade these penny stocks. Don't trade based off of like um what the company is like doing. Like don't trade based off of like the company mission, like
Yeah.
because most of the time there is no mission. Their mission is to make money and then leave you with a bag. So you need to plan your exits, plan your entries, and then just ride that wave and hop out before everyone else does. Especially now, like everything is buy the rumor, sell the news, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of the times, like even if a company does put out a good PR with good news, most of the time it's already priced in into where that press release comes out, and then the stock tanks because everybody already kind of knew that information, and it was already priced in, and so now they're pulling their money out. But anyways, that's kind of what got me into the crypto space too, because I never really traded crypto up until about a month ago, honestly. Um, I got intrigued by it, just because like similar to the OTC, it's like you follow the money. So clearly, crypto is at the start of the 2024 bull cycle due to the Bitcoin halving. So originally, I started trading Doge and SHIB.
Hmm.
With that being said, like I was trading and not long term holding. So don't buy Doge and SHIB thinking it's gonna run to the moon or nothing like that. I mean, if you want to invest in it, you absolutely can. But because these cryptos are super volatile, similar to penny stocks, a lot of the indicators that I was using on the penny stocks
Mm-hmm.
actually worked very well with trading the crypto. So same thing, I was able to use like my chart analysis and the different patterns and like the KST indicator and stuff like that to plan good exits and entries. So I was kind of doing that for a little bit, and then what so like really what I really want to educate people on is Bitcoin, because that's what, do you know when you first kind of see something for what it is and then it just makes your mind go when you
Yeah.
just start like diving headfirst into it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like that Diddy stuff. I was like, what the heck's going on here, man? We won't get into that, but yeah.
Yeah, dude. So like that's just kind of what happened with me in Bitcoin. Because if you would have asked me like 2 months ago what my thoughts were on Bitcoin, I would have told you, Bitcoin is the king of crypto. Bitcoin is something I unfortunately missed the run on, So like, am I gonna buy Bitcoin at $50,000, $60,000, $70,000? No, that is insanely high. I'm not buying Bitcoin at that price, right? That was my mentality, 1 to 2 months ago. And then, so I think what kind of shifted that, I have a coworker, and he's been in the crypto space for a while, and he accumulates a lot of different cryptos for staking and whatnot, but Bitcoin especially. He made a comment to me. He said, um, "I'll never sell my Bitcoin. Bitcoin is my retirement." That's what he said to me, right?
Mm.
And so it intrigued me. I'm like, why? Why? What is Bitcoin that you're never going to sell it? That you're comfortable putting your retirement into this? And
Because
you
there's
know
been
what I
so
mean?
many questions around it. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Exactly.
Like it was like, how is
Exactly.
this gonna work going forward? And like,
Right.
what is it like? How's this gonna play out? Because Bitcoin like popped off, right?
Mhm.
And like the crypto stuff popped off, especially during the pandemic, and people were like
Mhm.
buying these NFTs backed by various crypto, whatever you call them, like tokens or whatever. And then you just saw it just fall off like
Yeah.
hard, and it was like, okay, how's this gonna pan out?
Yeah, man. So as far as Bitcoin goes, Bitcoin is, I think, the key to moving away from using fiat currency.
Mm-hmm.
And so like if you don't know what fiat currency is, it's the dollar. It's currency that's not backed by a precious metal or like copper, silver,
Right.
gold. It's only backed by the government's promise to back it.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously now we're in situations like today where it's inflation is, I mean, I think the last Jerome Powell speech or whatever, I think he said like inflation was staying the same or stagnant for right now. But anyways, it's been just constantly going up, going up, going
Right.
up, and they're just printing more and more money. Just constantly diluting the dollar.
Yep.
And so I think Bitcoin is the key to moving away from fiat currency. It's the separation of money and state,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I think something that I've been asked is, well, so what is backing Bitcoin's value, right?
Yep.
Because like fiat currency is only backed by the government, and I think, in my opinion, Bitcoin's value is backed by scarcity, because there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, right? That cannot be changed. Like that is hard coded into the protocol. You cannot change it. 21 million, that's it. So that's why you have these Bitcoin miners that are constantly running, and they're mining this Bitcoin, and then every 4 years, that's where we kind of get these big bullish cycles, because Bitcoin has what's called a halving, meaning every, so say for example these crypto miners are getting, I don't know the exact number, so I'm just gonna use a random one. Say they're getting like zero point 0.10 of a Bitcoin for every time they solve that equation, right? And they get that chunk. Say they get zero point 0.10. After the halving, they're going to get, zero point 0.05. And then in 4 years, they'll get, zero point 0.025, So, yeah, man, like it causes this cycle that happens every 4 years, this bullish cycle. But anyways, I kind of started looking at Bitcoin as more of a commodity rather than a crypto, right? Commodity like gold, copper,
Yeah.
silver,
Yeah.
coffee beans, you know what I mean? Like, because of how scarce it is. And so I think, once I kind of had that interest peaked, I bought like my initial chunk of Bitcoin. So I only have a tenth. Like, I'll be transparent about that. I only have a tenth of a Bitcoin. I
Yeah.
think I paid a little over 7 grand for it, right? Um, and so now like my goal is just to accumulate, accumulate, accumulate. And the reason being, um, thinking about how like the ultra rich store their wealth right now, they're going to store it in real estate, right? They're going to buy freaking a building, Trump Tower. They're going to buy art, you know.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, the issues with that is a, if you want to buy real estate like a building or something like that, you're going to be paying property taxes. Um, art, it's not as liquidatable. It's not what's the word, like mobile, you could say. Like for example, like Bitcoin, I have what's called like a cold storage wallet, right? So like literally all I need is this little USB drive, and I can go anywhere with my Bitcoin, right? Like, and as long as I have this USB drive, like nobody can access my Bitcoin, nobody can hack my account, nothing like that, right? And so um I think Bitcoin will be used to store wealth by like the ultra rich, and that's why I think we are starting to see more mass adoption of it. Like you start seeing these Bitcoin ETFs. For example, like have you ever heard of BlackRock before?
Yes, they own everything.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I think they have like, if I remember correctly, like $10 trillion worth of assets under management. 10 with a T, 10 trillion,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So that's a lot of influence that company has. So
yes.
like for example, BlackRock, they have a bit what's called a Bitcoin ETF. And so it's a little bit different than your typical stock ETF because typically like a stock ETF, you'd be buying into a company that holds shares in like a specific niche, for example. Like it might be like tech stocks. So maybe the ETF you're buying into owns shares in Apple and they own shares in Microsoft. And so when you're buying this ETF, you're kind of like diversifying your portfolio and feeling the fluctuations of all those different stocks under that one ETF, right? And so with these Bitcoin ETFs, it's kind of similar, but really it's just these holding companies that have Bitcoin on their books. They hold them, and then they issue a X amount of shares based off of what their Bitcoin holdings are. And so we're starting to see this mass adoption because, I mean, again, Bitcoin is the separation of money and state. And so right now, the United States government, money is power, right? And so
Yep.
they control the money, they got the power. And so you take the money away. So for example, like Bitcoin being a global network that they have no influence over, then it kind of shakes things up a bit. And so I think now that we're starting to see these companies with ETFs, especially companies like BlackRock that have so much influence, and it's like, in my opinion, like what does that tell you? If we're starting to see mass adoption, like China, for example, as well. Um, back in 2021, China put a ban on Bitcoin mining. They banned it, and now fast forward to this year, and some of China's biggest asset giants have applied for Bitcoin ETFs. So you go from banning mining to now 4 years later, 3 years later, you're applying for an ETF. So again, man, you're just starting to see mass adoption. I think eventually Bitcoin will be um, used to store wealth by some of like the mega rich. I mean, even just everyday people. Like I
Yep.
think really it kind of alleviates the need for a bank account, truly,
Mm-hmm.
because Bitcoin provides secure transactions. It's like a ledger, like it provides encrypted secure transactions. And then I mean it really just kind of like takes out the need for a bank because you can store your wealth in Bitcoin.
That's so interesting. And that, yeah, it's when you start seeing the big boys, meaning like BlackRock, big Chinese corporations or whatever, start kind of digging into things. That's when you kind of know
Mhm.
something's happening. Um, yeah, it's so interesting, and that's a good explanation. And then, I learned from that because I've always wondered, like, what's the purpose? Like, what are we going to do this? Like, can I go to Walmart one day and use Bitcoin instead of the dollar? Because yeah, like the dollar's tanking.
Mhm.
It's been tanking. I was watching a video of just discussing of how like the U.S. dollar, like, um, we print way too much of our dollar because of our debts or whatever it may be, and then we are in debt, and it's just like, man. Then you see like China, they're starting to take over like as the global currency leader. I don't know
Mhm.
if they've surpassed us yet. I don't think they have, but they're getting close.
So,
um and it's just like, okay, And then you bring crypto into the equation. Like all these people were talking crypto. I remember when Dogecoin popped off, like
Mhm.
AMC and GameStop, and it was like, well, I guess those are stocks, but like it was all kind of at the same time. Like this whole
Yeah.
trend like boomed. And I remember people talking like 10 years ago about Bitcoin and like how they got in
Mhm.
and like bought it for so cheap. And like this one dude, I was watching a video on some guy. He's like, I invested in Bitcoin like 2014 or something like that. And now he's retired and basically lives on his yacht. And I'm like,
Yeah,
damn.
man.
I'm like, what? Like, it's crazy. And I'm on Pi. Are you on my Pi? Are you in my Pi circle?
Oh yeah, dude. I still
Yeah, man.
mine. I still mine.
Hey,
I
dude,
got
I
the
be mining
notification
every day.
today.
I'm just like, I hope this pops off. I don't know. And see, I just don't know enough about it. I just was, my uncle talked to me about it. My uncle Lance talked to me about it. He's like, hey, check this out. And this is like 2019. And
Mhm.
here we are in 2024. And like you go on crypto.com and they have like Pi projected at like $50 right now, but it's not like in a market you can like trade it or whatever. Like I'm still learning about that too, but I'm
Yeah,
like,
I don't think it's on like actually listed on exchanges where you can be buying and selling it. I mean, I'm sure that there's probably like I think there's one called like Pump It. It might be on that one, but it's like a not your typical like exchange like Coinbase, Binance, stuff like that.
but it's so
Crypto.com.
interesting, like the mining and things. Cause I mine every day. I'm like, but what is this really doing? Like, what is? Can you explain a little bit, like what is mining?
Um, well, so as far as like Bitcoin mining, to my knowledge, you essentially you have like these I don't want to call them like supercomputers, but you have these like specific like what they're just called miners, you know. You set them up. Very expensive to run, but so to my knowledge, they are essentially competing against these other miners. And I believe it's some sort of like arithmetic equation that these things have to solve. And then when if they solve it, like the first miner to solve it gets that little chunk of Bitcoin or whatever
Mm,
crypto they're mining. But
okay, yeah, yeah. It's interesting, man. I just wonder if it's ever gonna, you know, because we live in such a different world than we actually did like 10 years ago.
yeah.
Like, can there be a universal currency where it doesn't go through the United States, it doesn't go through somewhere else, and like I can fly over to Spain for a week and I could use
Mhm.
something else instead of you have to exchange your dollars because not everyone
Well,
takes it. You know
like that's another thing. That's another thing to think about as far as currency exchange. Like they already have Bitcoin ATMs. So imagine you fly to Japan, you hop off the plane, and you go to their Bitcoin ATM and you withdraw, 500 bucks worth of whatever the Japanese currency is. I'm not sure what it is,
right?
but 500 bucks or 1,000 bucks. You do your thing, like you spend your money,
Damn.
and then when you go to leave, you just go back to that Bitcoin ATM, put that currency back in, and then it goes back to your hard wallet, and then you back to the US or wherever else you're going
Damn.
to.
That's so interesting, man. It's crazy. It really is
It's
crazy.
crazy. It's definitely hard to grasp, especially I mean, I think what you're going to start seeing as well is definitely a lot of gaslighting by the government and by other countries, because again, like I was saying before, money is power, and if you control the money, you have the power. And
Yeah.
so with Bitcoin, because it is the separation of money and state, Bitcoin's owned by the people, so it
Mm-hmm.
gives the power back to the people.
Mm. Yeah, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like the even like stocks are so crazy now because now you're seeing like politicians and stuff do like insider trading or like they know they're
Mhm.
pushing bills or like pushing certain things so they can make a little
Yeah.
buck off it, man. It it's such a
Yeah,
crazy
man.
space because there's so much room for like people to grow financially if they're in and they're in the right spaces. But it's like one of those things too where it's so I feel like corrupt in a lot of ways. And I didn't realize politicians could do that, but like when people are doing things like that, it's like, what the hell's going on? You know what
Yeah,
I
and it's
mean?
unfortunate, because you can't hold them accountable because they make the rules. So
Yeah.
you see these politicians like where they're making $150,000 salary or $200,000 salary, but their net worth is north of $200 million. And it's like, how does this happen? And then you see, okay, well, they bought this stock, and then they started passing these regulations and these different laws to benefit, and then all of a sudden that stock starts to rise 30%, and it's like, but how did that happen? Because you bought it, and then all of a sudden you start putting things into law, or signing off on certain things that benefit that company. And I mean, that's exactly insider trading. But again, you can't hold them accountable because
Can't
they
hold
make
no
the
one
rules.
accountable, man.
Yeah,
It's crazy. They hold the people accountable, but they don't hold those cats accountable.
yeah, man. I
In
mean,
my opinion, and it's
you
not.
miss a couple grand on your taxes, and all of a sudden you're a
Yeah,
criminal.
that's crazy. I got the student loans, and they be knocking on my door. Hey, don't forget to pay your loan. I got you. Um,
Yeah, man.
let's see. Lance asked a question. I think you touched on this a little bit earlier. With all the promises that crypto was assuring in the beginning, and now that the whole market was kind of devalued in the value of crypto because of the pump and dump and the shady practices, what makes you so yeah, you kind of already touched on this. What makes you confident enough to keep investing in the space? Like, do you see a time and a place where is there like a Bitcoin credit card or like a Bitcoin card you could just go swipe your stuff, or like do you think like things like that are in the future?
Um, I don't know. Well, so something to keep in mind with Bitcoin. There's kind of two networks. You have like the main Bitcoin network and then the Bitcoin Lightning network. And so trying to do transactions on just the standard Bitcoin network would take too long, as far as like taking your card, and like you'd be waiting like 10-15 minutes. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, on the Bitcoin Lightning network, like you can, and it's still like on the Bitcoin network, you can transfer to your Bitcoin to that network.
Mm.
And I mean, it's a lot faster. So do I think it could get to that point? I mean, it's hard to say, man, because it's really uncharted territory. Like,
And there's only so
it,
much
it,
of it, like you said. And it was
and
like, do you
again,
want
well,
to
so
get
with
Walmart that
Bitcoin,
Bitcoin?
so with Bitcoin, honestly, man, I don't see Bitcoin like I don't. It is a crypto by definition, but again, like I don't consider it a crypto. I see Bitcoin as a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so again, like I use it more to like store wealth rather than like everyday purchases type
Looking to
thing. So if
spend
you're at
it.
a gas
Yeah.
station, like I don't really see its usefulness for that per se. But
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, who knows? Because yeah, there's only 21 million Bitcoin, but you don't have to buy one Bitcoin. You can buy fractions of a Bitcoin. So at the end of the day, I mean, in theory, could something like that work? I mean, yeah, so you're using a fraction of a Bitcoin, but again, you know, say Bitcoin's down this year, and then you spend like 0.05, and then 2, 3, 4 years from now, that 0.05 is worth, 10 times what you just spent it for. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
like I personally see Bitcoin as a way to store wealth, similar to like real estate and
Yep. Okay.
art and
Okay.
whatnot. So
Okay. Now, yeah, I understand. Okay. Now I get it. Yeah. Because I was like, people using it for everyday purchases, you're just giving the big boys the limited amount of Bitcoin because it is limited if there's a cap on it, right?
exactly,
And
exactly. And like I was saying, that's where in my opinion Bitcoin's value is backed, is by scarcity. It's by the fact that there's 8 some billion people in the world, and there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin,
mm-hmm.
ever. Like, you that cannot be changed. That is
Yeah,
hard coded into the protocol.
that's crazy. That's a crazy way to put it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
So like,
Okay.
and so like right now, for example, like when I was kind of saying earlier, as far would I buy Bitcoin at 50,000, 60,000, 70,000? I was like, no, no, no. Now, dude, I really don't care about the price. Like, I think so after I kind of did my research, and I kind of had the mindset of like, all right, like this is where I want to start putting my money. I bought a tenth. It wasn't like one single purchase. I think my buys were in between 63,000 and like 68,000, like just in that window. But yeah, man, like right now, if it dips, then I'll dollar cost average down. If it goes up, like I just keep putting, every paycheck like $500 to $1,000 into it, and just storing wealth. You know what I mean? Like I have a high yield savings account too, and it's just I was kind of like thinking about the benefit I'm getting with this high yield savings account versus putting the money in Bitcoin. And I'm like, I'm making 4.25% on the savings account per
Damn.
year, whereas Bitcoin, you know, I mean, I don't know the exact percentage. I haven't checked it in my head, but just even based off of a dollar amount, like significantly more beneficial as far as battling inflation and whatnot.
Mm, mm. Yeah, man. Take care of that bread. Take care of that bread. Sid and I are like we had Sid and I, my wife. If y'all don't know, like we had a talk and we were talking about um we're like because we just we're buying a house and um we're like, okay, we got to save. And so like she made like this budget and like, okay, if we do this, that, cut these things out, like DoorDash, da 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 da, like we'll save this much amount of money. And we were talking like we've never had, because we've always been like renting. It was like we've never had to like save for something big. Like our wedding,
Yeah.
yes, but like this is completely different. And they started triggering this thing with me where I'm like, hmm, it's that time for me personally. Everyone else has their own time, but it was like this is the time now to really start taking care of that bread, and then like, looking in different areas to, like get assets or
Mhm.
whatever it is to, you know, make more money down the road and things like that. And we were watching this show, and it was some farmer. I recommend this show. It's on Peacock. It's called like the McBee Farm, and like
Okay.
the dad's like this big farmer, and he has all these assets, and like he's like 15 million in the hole, like in debt because he bought some things and he's waiting for it to pan out and da 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 da. And then he made like another big investment, and I was like, why would someone do that? And I was always I'm starting to like intrigue me of like the gambles people take and hoping it pays off, but also like it's shown to pay off for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Does that make sense of kind of what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you gotta scared money don't make no money,
Absolutely.
And so like,
Absolutely.
what is kind of like, you don't have to get in like specific detail, but like kind of goes back to the Book of Babylon, or the richest man in Babylon. Not the Book of Babylon. Um, how do you think people, if they're first gonna start, you know, looking in the stocks, maybe saving some bread, um, how would you tell a beginner to kind of dip into that space? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say, well, so on, like for example, for stocks, I use E-Trade, and so on E-Trade you can do what's called paper trading, where you're making trades based off the market, but you're using fake money, so you can kind of like test yourself. But as far as like just starting out learning, I mean, I would say like one of the biggest things you need to understand is like share structure. And I think if you go to the OTC Markets website, it's otcmarkets.com. Put in like a penny stock. You can put in. I think Adidas trades on the OTC market, or like Monster. Put in a penny stock, and then go to that company profile, and read their bio. Um, read about their company officers. Kind of get an understanding of the structure of the company itself. Especially like outstanding shares and then authorized shares, stuff like that. I would say if you're just starting out, you definitely need to kind of like understand, because that's going to assist in price targets. For example, like if a company has like a penny, I'm going to use a penny stock for example, just because that's what I'm most familiar with. If a penny stock has 500 million shares, you got to think, for that company to hit $1 per share, that would give that company a $500 million market cap.
Mm,
And now ask yourself, is that actually achievable by this company? Like, is something like that probable? No, I mean, penny stocks most likely not.
yeah.
But so like definitely, just understanding share structure will kind of give you an idea of like of market cap, and that'll kind of give you a better idea of what's realistic and what's not.
Mm, yeah. Just the education of it, man. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. Just learn a little bit more and read some
Mhm.
books. So like, what kind of books would you recommend outside the Richest Man in Babylon if people are trying to like put the time in and like educate yourself? Because like I believe like if you're gonna get into this space, this is just my opinion. If you're gonna get into this space, like at least have some background in it. Because all the people that I know who are actually relatively successful in the space, they either one have a financial advisor who has all the knowledge, whatever, they've gone to school or did whatever to like have that, or they've done all the education themselves by like listening to people and reading.
Yeah, man. I mean, so just some of like the like books that I've read personally. It's been a little bit since I've read these books, honestly, but um, like the first one, I think my friend Ben actually got this one for me, but it's called A Random Walk Down Wall Street. This is a good one. Another one I like is called Trading in the Zone. And then lastly, this one's probably a rock solid one, just beginner's guide to the stock market. Let's say start with those three, and then just kind of see how you're feeling from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Hey, Zach, clip it. That's a clip right there. That's a clip. Clip it. Um, yeah, man, it's such an interesting space. And this is like a good talk just to kind of, for me to hear it, but also just to share to others. Cause it's one of those things where someone might be like, yeah, I'm gonna do it, but then they keep putting it off, and I've done the same thing. But also, like, it's like, okay, well, I'm not gonna do this if I'm not fully prepared.
It's intimidating, man. It's a lot of
Yeah,
information right at the go, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I think if you truly want to like build wealth and kind of um I mean, even I'm not saying like everyone's going to be like a multimillionaire investment genius, but
right.
even like I was saying, build wealth and kind of like set your future self up for maybe retiring early or just even having like extra money. I definitely think the stock market and investing in crypto and whatnot is just uber important. Everybody should be
Yep.
knowledgeable in that field.
Yep. Absolutely. Before we kind
Um,
of get you off here, Jordan, I want to ask you a question, and I don't know if this sounds dumb or what. Um, I was like thinking the other day, I was like, well, I want all my bread in the bank. Should I have like a stash of bread in the crib just in case? You know what I mean? So,
like
because
cash.
just some cash. Because like if shit hits the
Um,
fan, like, what do you
I
think
don't know.
about
I mean,
something
also
like
like
that?
if shit really hits the fan, are you going to be using money? You think? Like,
So
I guess like
the
what do you mean by if shit hits the fan?
what triggered this is there was some chick out of Ohio. I don't think she was a governor. She may have been the governor. She may have been like a mayor or something. And the eclipse was happening. Like it was like the next day, and she was like, make sure you plan for the worst case scenario. Make sure you have extra battery packs. Make sure your gas is full. Make sure, if there's any event that happens, you have cash. And I was like, she might have a point. Like, what if we got worst case scenario? Let's say we got like EMP'd by another country. We're off the grid. All your money's in the bank.
Yeah.
You have no cash, but like people aren't. I still don't think people are gonna let you have things for free. You know what I mean?
I mean, it just kind of depends on,
Because wasn't it in the Great Depression where maybe like banks, like people who had money in the banks, like it just basically disappeared and they all went bankrupt and
I'm
things
not
like
sure,
that.
honestly. It wouldn't surprise me because I mean, look at all the gold that's supposedly in Fort Knox. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, it wouldn't surprise me. I personally don't know that answer for certain, but I would say, I mean, if things were to hit the fan like that, like I just don't see the use for cash personally because I feel
Yeah.
like if it's really getting to that point, then people are probably gonna be taking what they want anyway. So in my opinion,
Facts.
you'd probably be better off buying a gun. Um,
Facts, man.
but I mean
Stuff will
that's
get
kind of again
crazy.
like again as far as like Bitcoin, especially as far as storing wealth, in my opinion, again like I don't want to be like, I'm telling you to do this, but if I was you, this is what I would do. You can keep your half in the bank, and then rather than having half cash,
Mm-hmm.
I would get a cold storage wallet and put half into Bitcoin and then hold it in Bitcoin.
Mm.
And then, for example, even if we were to get like EMP'd, you're not going to lose your Bitcoin. Your Bitcoin is stored on the blockchain, so you got your cold ledger. We may not have like an electronics to be able to like plug it in or whatever, but as
Mm-hmm.
soon as we get things back up and running, or you leave the country, you still have your Bitcoin.
Mm.
Um,
Mm. Interesting.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's definitely like an interesting question. I don't know, man. Yeah, it would just kind of depend on how people react, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking that it's just my brain goes that way sometimes. I'm like,
Yeah, no, fair enough. Fair enough.
um,
Absolutely.
before we get you off here, bro, because I gotta go coach a basketball game. Wish my team luck.
Oh yeah.
Zach says, first off, Gabriel Vazicek. Am I saying that right?
Check. That's my sister's dad.
Oh, sick. He says, slow and steady, constant drip, baby. Great interview. So you get some props there. Um, and then Zach says, cold storage wallet. I'm 5. Like, what's a cold storage wallet?
Well, so yeah, like that's
Oh, the USB.
this
Okay.
USB right here. Yeah. So basically, you're not actually storing the Bitcoin here. The Bitcoin is always going to be stored on the blockchain. But what this does is basically takes the keys to that and then
Mm-hmm.
throws it onto this USB
Mm.
device. So, for example, you know, like if I want to sell my Bitcoin, or if I want to transfer my Bitcoin to another wallet, I have to plug this into my computer, and then I have to like hit the buttons at the same time and essentially release it to allow that transaction to
Okay.
occur.
Okay.
And then if, for example, you know, like if this ever gets damaged, lost, whatever, you know, I have a 24-word seed phrase that I can still use to then recover the Bitcoin.
Yeah, those things, man. I know a lot of people who lost their accounts to, you know, NFTs and like some crypto stuff because they couldn't remember their phrase. You know,
Yeah.
and you got to write that down, save it somewhere where, you know.
Yeah, I think a couple years ago, I feel like I remember reading something on Twitter where there was a family that had like X amount of Ethereum, and I think it was valued at like $2 million or something like that, but they couldn't get back into the wallet to actually get the money.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I feel like we could talk about this forever. Probably have to do a part two eventually. Maybe like
Yeah, yeah,
an
for sure,
update.
man.
Um,
Yeah, maybe like wait a year or something like that, kind of
yeah.
check back in, see where things are
See
at.
what's going on. But again, bro, I appreciate you for coming on. Gideon, such a great dude. I remember I hit him up in high school. I was like, hey man, can you put my subs in? No problem. He wouldn't even let me pay him. We got a good dude right here, man. He's doing good for himself. And, you know, bro, I'm really proud of you just of how, you know, from going from Montana to Vegas and absolutely crushing it, you know.
Thank you, man.
You're in like a good space, like with the cars, like the shit you get to see there, but then also just watching you expand into this other space. And
Yeah, man.
you've always treated me well. It's always gonna be love, man. So I appreciate you for coming on. Um, we'll get Zach to make the clips and make us all look nice, but it was a pleasure to like just hear you talk about this. Like I learned a lot from it. People in the chat definitely learned a lot from it as well. So I just want to thank you again for coming on here, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm like super grateful just to kind of come on your space and you know try and educate people the best I can about Bitcoin and you know getting into trading stocks or just even investing in stocks, whatever they're going for. But yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Thank you so much, bro. Chat. I'm not gonna get into UFC 300 today. We might do a little pod tomorrow or some other time, and I'll kind of break it down, share my opinion. So I hope you all come back for that. But Jordan Gideon, this is episode 7. Appreciate y'all for coming. I appreciate the support. Jordan appreciates it as well. Great talk, you know, and I'll catch y'all. I'll catch y'all on the flippity flop. All right, y'all. Much love. Peace.